Well, hey guys, what's going on? Good mic work. Back at you 2 nights in a row. Here we are with your October 19th, 2020 Monday Night Raw review. And this was an interesting show. I'm looking at some comments right off the bat here in the chat, and it looks like some people have good things to say about it, as do I. We saw some interesting segments, and we had a couple of good matches on the show, but we had some really stupid head-scratching booking. I think it's pretty safe to say that Retribution is officially dead, and as a matter of fact, they might have killed the Hacker Angle too, all in the same interview. which is crazy. I'm probably going to rant a little bit on the WWE draft because, as I've been bitching about for the past several weeks, the draft means nothing, and they went on to prove that even more tonight by having Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott and Otis all on the show. Absolutely ridiculous. And a few other things here and there that were a little bit head scratching, but we had some interesting things as well, and along with a couple of new angles. AJ Styles has a new bodyguard. Alexa Bliss made her made her first appearance in the Funhouse, which was awesome. And we had a women's title match that I very much enjoyed. So we'll talk about that stuff and discuss the show as a whole. But as we start here, I want everybody's kind of letter grade, A, B, C, or D. Give me a number out of 10. If our friend George is here, he'll let us know that he gives it a 0 out of 10. But any serious grades, hit me with them. What did you think? Was the Retribution stuff enough to kill the show for you? Or did they have enough here for a go-home show? You got to remember, this is Go Home to Hell in the Cell. And lately in WWE, go-home shows have sucked. But this one, I suppose, wasn't all bad, other than just a really couple of crazy booking decisions. I don't know. Yeah, brand split my ass, Randy Peace. You're right. So stupid. Yes, and that's another thing. Deshaun, thank you for pointing that out. What did you guys think about the new Raw intro tonight? I'm not sure. Did SmackDown get an upgrade on theirs? I don't even remember from Friday. But tonight had a whole new intro. They kind of got away from, they've been doing like rock songs for I don't know how many decades now. This is a more of a hip-hop type of theme. Some people on Twitter let me know who the artist was that was doing the song. Apparently this person is well respected. Of course, because I'm an old man, I have no freaking clue who it is. So you can let me know there. We always tend to reject the new intros at first. Sometimes they grow on you, sometimes they don't. So I'm certainly not going to shit on this, new intro yet, because it might turn out to be something that will grow on me. Even that Nickelback song is as bad as it was, I kind of got used to over time. So we'll see, how this one pans out. But you guys let me know what you think about the new intro and the show overall. We got B pluses, C pluses, B, 4 out of 10, 8 out of 10, D minus. Yeah, we're all over the place. Barry's giving it an A. Yeah, in any show with The Fiend was heavily featured tonight. With the awesome opening. Just he's got the most badass entrance in wrestling. Just seeing Alexa in the ring and introducing him. And I put on Twitter, like, imagine if that ridiculous finish from last year's Hell in the Cell never happened. Imagine if Saudi Arabia never happened. How just strong, even stronger this character would be. The fact that it's so badass that it's managed to survive all the shit booking they've done with him in the past year, and has still remained intriguing and fun and interesting. And the new, kind of pairing with Alexa Bliss is something that we kind of didn't see. We saw a female being involved at some point. I think we all predicted that, but none of us really had Alexa on our radar, and I think she's fitting in perfect. I think it's a great little side thing for her to do, and who knows how long it'll last, and I'm loving their partnership so far. So that was great because they had, they were in the opening segment, and they showed back up in the match later. Then they did the Funhouse. So Bray and Alexa were all up over this Monday Night Raw. But I'm glad we're kicking off with the Retribution stuff here soon, because that was absolutely ridiculous. That was I thought we were going to be in for a bad night, based on that. But it slowly got better. Somewhat. Yeah, the ending of the show was a little bit weird too. We'll get to that, but what I thought was ludicrous about the ending is that, Randy Orton came out to cut the promo in that very, very, very red cell, and McIntyre then comes out and Orton's taunting him. It seems like they're telegraphing this. You can see this coming from a mile away. Orton's taunting McIntyre. You can't get in. You can't touch me. Ha, 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 ha. You're chained out. You're not strong enough to break the door. And Drew is going to be like, bullshit. Yes, I am. And either just rip the door off its hinges like Kane did, or just Claymore his body right through the door. He never did that. He just reaches over the barricade and pulls out bolt cutters, which is actually kind of smart. But it just kind of was funny to me that he's basically like, well, here's my I ain't as strong as Kane cutters, and I'm going to use these to open the cage there. And then when he gets in, he slams the door behind him, and they pretty much fade to black. That was the end of the show, right? So they kind of left you teased there, left you hanging, but just all set up. I mean, that's what you have to do. It's a world title. That's got to be the final segment. And these guys really haven't had any matches since the ambulance match, right? So this will be, a long time coming, a lot of physicality here. But I guess in terms of what they did tonight, it was okay. But yeah, the door slamming and then the show going off the air was a little bit on the lame side. Plus, he used a tool to get through. And McIntyre's a big, strong guy. I think he could have figured out a way. to get that door off if he really worked at it enough. But I found that kind of comical. But yeah, not the greatest ending to the show. I would have rather them finished with a match or something like that because, there are other matches apparently. Did they officially announce anything for Hell in a Cell tonight? Because there's still, as far as I know, only the 3 matches. Did they make anything else? I don't have anything in my notes unless I missed something. I have a feeling they might add Strowman and Lee based on what we saw with the low blow and all of that, maybe. But I don't think they announced that tonight. I don't know. Still only 3 matches on the go-home show. Yeah, Scott is right. That is kind of a throwback ending. That's something you would see. Maybe not so much Attitude Era. Attitude Era would always insist that, there's going to be some violence going down. I remember, prior to, was it the summer of 98? They had that cell on Raw, and they were brawling in there. That might have been prior to the King of the Ring or prior to SummerSlam, one or the other. But, things like that, big brawls to end the show, to set up your main event down the road. There was usually fighting involved there. So this was kind of reminiscent maybe of WCW a little bit too. They do some shit like that every now and then. Then they make it tune back in. They'd sucker you back for some, partnership with a TNT program or something. Oh, thanks for that, Scott. I'm assuming you mean me. Oh, how Weezy? How you doing, buddy? Sorry, I missed your super chat. Oh, I saw that earlier. I almost forgot about it. Yeah, look at there. How Weezy's saying the show was honestly very good. And as we talk about it here, that's usually what helps me sway my opinion one way or the other, because if I'm just writing notes and I'm kind of half-assed paying attention, I might start, getting an idea in my head. But as we kind of talk about these matches individually, we'll be able to kind of judge the show better, and maybe I'll kind of change my tune on it. The Retribution stuff was just really kind of weird to me, and then the draft bullshit is just super annoying. I don't know why it bothers me so bad. I've known this about WWE forever, that brand split means absolutely dick, but it doesn't stop getting less annoying, you know what I mean? But there were some instances here tonight on the show that might have saved it. I'm glad you liked it. How Weezy. We got Spaz chiming in. What's up, dude? Thanks for the 5 and welcome back. Non-wrestling plug. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., retro review of 1989 Batman. That's like the only Batman I've ever seen. Over on my page, cheers to you and your chat, brother. Road to 1,100 subs. I almost thought that said 100. Yeah, go over there, sub to Spaz's YouTube channel. Help him get him over that hump of that elusive 1,100. And yeah, I'd like to hear your review of 1989 Batman, because I never followed all the Batman movies. I never even saw like Dark Knight and everything else that I should have seen, like the rest of the sane universe out there. I'm just a weirdo. But I remember the 1989 Batman. I had the soundtrack, all the Prince songs and shit. And I thought Nicholson was an awesome Joker. Michael Keaton. That was very a Tim Burton-y type of movie too. Yeah, I'll take a listen to that, Spaz. All right, let's get into the results. Start knocking these out here for Monday Night Raw. They, like we said, they debuted the new intro there. Some people were lukewarm to it, but I think, like I said, it'll probably grow on us. Then we open up the show with the big, grand, huge Fiend entrance. This thing is just so badass. And what did Alexa say? She was in the ring and she said something. Did she say, "Let me in," or "He's here," or I don't know what she said. She said like one quick line. Then the lights go out. The Fiend does his whole big entrance, and he gets in the ring. And what I loved about that is the whole time he's making his entrance, Alexa has not moved. She's still just eye contact with the hard cam, staring right at it, hasn't moved a muscle the whole time. Bray does his whole thing. He gets in the ring, and he stands right next to her, and they're basically just standing there. You don't even know what they're really going to do. And then the lights go out, and the idiotic Retribution faction shows up, and they start surrounding the ring. And Alexa and Bray do nothing. They just stand there. They're just fearless. They don't care. Like, bring it on, you weirdos. Come right on up to us. They're not doing anything. The lights go down again. They come back up, and they're gone. So, and the Fiend and Alexa Bliss got out of there. Then the Hurt Business comes down to the ring. They start brawling with Retribution. They have a scheduled 8-man tag for Raw tonight, which they were advertising earlier on in the day. So, we still haven't even gotten, after Ali's reveal, we haven't even gotten him coming out and explaining his actions. You would think that, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt. Last week, the draft was in the way. That was kind of front and center. So maybe there's an argument to be made to push the Ali explanation to this week. So fine. So what he should have done is come out there in like the beginning of the show. He should have opened the show to explain everything, because that was, somewhat of a bombshell when he was revealed to be the leader. And everything that he would talk about later on in the backstage segment, he would do, to open the show. But instead, They come out to confront the Fiend. He leaves. The Hurt Business comes out, starts kicking the crap out of them. They start brawling. And I think we go right into the match after that, right? There was, the 8-man. I think we go to commercial. We come back, and then you got the 8-man tag. So it's the all 4 male members of Retribution against all 4 members of the Hurt Business. And this is ridiculous. Lashley winds up tapping out T-Bar with the Hurt Lock, or with the full Nelson, and T-Bar taps out, and in their first match all together as a unit like this, they lose before Ali is even able to give his explanation speech or his promo about this. And then, if that's not bad enough, after Retribution taps out, the Fiend returns, attacks, and beats the shit out of all 5 of them, or all 4 of them, including Ali, who he gets last and hits with the Sister Abigail on the inside of the ring. So he completely wipes out by himself all 5 members of this dangerous faction that's going to end WWE. They've really been reduced now to a complete joke. They kind of already were, but Ali's insertion as the leader there gave it hope. It gave it like a spark of life. Okay, well, maybe if WWE gives this the right opportunity and Ali the right material, and they book this creatively and intelligently, this could be a lot of fun, and Ali could really turn this thing around. And before he even has a chance to try to turn it around, it's dead in the water. I mean, it's completely dead. Retribution's dead. I'm not a big believer in the term, burial and things like that, but what else do you call this? They got completely annihilated here when they're supposed to be striking fear in all the superstars, especially the way they came in. And then I knew it was silly during the draft when WWE drafted them. There's a group of people purposely and deliberately going out of their way to try to bring this brand down and to sabotage it and to threaten the safety and the welfare and the lives of wrestlers and employees and staff and all of that. And then you draft them to your show. And maybe that was WWE's way of, basically they kind of tricked Retribution. I thought the contract stuff was silly. All of a sudden they come out on TV, they say they have contracts now. And the reason they got contracts is because WWE was so scared that they were going to continue to fuck shit up that they decided to sign them to contracts so they could, control them a little bit. And maybe that was the point. They got them signed to contracts, then they drafted them, which means they control how much TV time they get. Unless they run out there and do everything they're doing, they're not going to get any matches or anything like that, so they can kind of shut it down. And it feels like that's kind of what they did here. And they just booked them in a match. They got beat by a faction that's stronger than them. The Hurt Business is much bigger, much tougher, much badder. I think if you reversed this, it would work more. If it was MVP and company that were, donning the masks and going out there and scaring people and beating the shit out of everybody, and then it was Retribution that was the baby faces trying to stop them, that might make a little bit more sense. But Retribution they look weak. They don't look strong. They don't look like no matter how many weird masks they have or what's going on with their attire, they're not scary. Slapjack, I mean, come on. So it's just a shame that WWE's so bad at this. So right after they lose and after the Fiend just kicks their ass, Ali tweets out, he goes, "We have a big announcement coming soon." So we're going to hear from them again later on in the show. But in terms of the opening segment there, it was shit. It just Retribution right off the bat. I just cannot believe that. Maybe WWE has heard the complaints. We've all been crapping all over Retribution. So maybe they're saying, all right, let's just kill it and move on and then break this team up. And then Ali can, maybe still try to get another push or whatever. But sometimes I don't know what their thought process is here. When they do stuff like this, it's a mess. Anyway, we're going to talk more about Retribution. We'll talk all about Ali's promo here in just a second, but he did make a big revelation in that promo as well. But again, the timing of it and where it was placed in comparison to everything else made zero sense to me at all. But let me cruise up here and knock out. I got a super chat coming in from Zane. Good to see you. And thanks for the 10, man. What up, Mike Work? I missed spewing my super chats throughout your channel. I've been dealing with personal problems, using the Raw review to steer away from the negativity. Well, I hope everything is going well, man. I'm sorry to hear the personal problems, but this will definitely take you away from the negativity, because the only thing negative you're going to hear here is when I talk about the draft in a little bit. And of course, the horrible and very head-scratching booking of Retribution. Other than that, we'll try our best to steer you away from anything going on in your personal life, man. And I appreciate you being here. Pan Dolce, Retribution, wannabe Nexus. That's kind of true. Who do you think was ruined worse? John Cena, ending the Nexus single-handedly, or, Retribution and what happened here tonight? I think it's pretty damn close. I think, Nexus might have been slightly more disappointing because they had promise. I feel like some people thought that Nexus was, was a good faction. It was one of the best things WWE had done, in a couple of years span there. And it was, somewhat believable. And the initial introduction there where they were wreaking havoc and everything was done pretty well, and then Super Cena kind of put an end to that. So I don't know if this could be, if it's a fair comparison or not, but it's kind of the same thing, in terms of a faction that at least on paper has promise, but WWE just doesn't know what to do. A lot of times when they get something like this, especially in a heel faction, they frequently have the balls to really run with it very far before it just gets all messed up. There, I never did a sound check, by the way. Making sure we're good. Retribution reminds me of the foot soldiers that used to get their asses kicked by the Ninja Turtles. That's funny. They're just not, they're lame. Yeah, Maka has it right there. That's the only word I can really accurately use to describe it. I know it's lame, but they're lame. That's what they are. They were never, maybe that very first week, the Molotov cocktail into whatever that was outside in like week 1 or 2 of this nonsense, I was like, maybe that's pretty good. But once they got in the ring and they were all like 5'4" and they brought out the chainsaw and broke the rope, it became laughable. To me, it became a joke. I was just watching like a really bad horror movie, a really bad action movie that's not supposed to be funny, but it is. It's like that. That's kind of what it reminded me of. So, just silly. But anyway, after that, we had AJ Styles coming out to the ring. He's got a match with Matt Riddle, and he's bringing with him the big guy. His name is Jordan, and I do not want to butcher his last name. I'll learn it, and I'll have it right by next week. He's the big gentleman that we saw outside of Shane McMahon's door for the Raw Underground, and I think he was also the giant ninja in Tozawa's group. So this was reported. I'm not going to credit anybody because I can't remember who I saw reporting it first, but I did see the story that there's talk that AJ is going to be given a bodyguard, and this is the guy it's going to be. So this was already kind of out there. So when I saw him debut with him tonight, I'm like, oh, wow, they're doing that now. I thought it was something that was being talked about. We might see this in upcoming weeks, but no, they brought him out with AJ right away. I'm okay with this. I mean, AJ, he's so stupidly good that he can be in any sort of a title picture, whether it be US, IC, World, Universal, anytime he wants. But in between those times, when he has like championship gold to contend to or contend for, what do you really do with him? Right now, Gallows and Anderson are gone. You could pair him with somebody, so they're giving him the bodyguard gimmick. Now, I have no idea how something like this is going to last. They are comically, or AJ's comically oversized. Like, he's already not a very tall guy to begin with. And this guy, what's his official height on this Jordan? I know he played for college basketball for USF. Was he 7'4", 7'6", something? I mean, he's over 7 feet. He's just ridiculously tall. And he's got, the suit and the gold chain. He looks like a bouncer at a really fancy nightclub or something like that. So he's going to be backing up AJ. Right now, he's not that animated. He hasn't done much. As a matter of fact, when he's in the ring and the referee is telling him, like, you got to get out of the ring now, AJ has to wrestle, he won't even budge. He won't even say anything. And the referee kind of starts counting to 5. Like, what's that going to do? And he's just not moving. He's like, I'm not leaving. And the referee basically just begs him. He's like, dude, will you please just leave? After, you can do whatever you want after. Just let me do my damn job. Let me get this match done. And then he was like, Jordan was like, okay, I'll leave. He gets out of the ring and lets AJ Styles have his match with Matt Riddle. Riddle now is on Raw. I think that's probably a good move for him. Still not sure what WWE wants to do with Riddle in terms of how far they're going to push him with everything that's going on with some various lawsuits with him right now. But one thing that they did tonight that absolutely made me puke, and I knew they were going to do this, they had to do the slow motion of the flip-flop thing. You don't need to do that, WWE. We like the entrance. It's cool. He jumps over the rope. He flips off his shoes. But when you harp on it and you show 19 replays of the entrance, we don't need that. We get it. We see what he does. You don't need to show us. And it's like they're introducing the Raw audience to Matt Riddle. Like, people who watch Raw don't watch fucking SmackDown. It's the same show. One's red, one's blue. They don't have their own separate fans. If WWE thinks they do, they're crazy. So that is just dumb. I'm like, don't ruin that. WWE always just ruins things, or they see something that they like and then they just hammer it into our brains and it becomes old in 3 weeks. And that's what I'm worried they're going to do with the flip flop thing here. The match was good. AJ and Riddle have had a few battles on SmackDown. AJ jobbed to him, I think, on his debut, didn't he? Didn't Matt Riddle beat AJ in his first match there or whatever? So they've had a couple of wars. They always have good matches. These guys, if you're ever, I don't know if Savage and Steamboat level intercontinental title matches are really ever going to exist again, but if a match like that, felt as important in modern times, I think Riddle and AJ together could be, two guys that could bring that same level of importance to a championship match, like on an undercard level. But even just on a random Monday Night Raw random match, they still do well together. Now, AJ got the win here. Riddle was on the outside of the ring. The bodyguard, all he did was distract him. He kind of walked up to Riddle and kind of balled up his fist like he was going to hit him. It was just enough to kind of, slow down Riddle a little bit. AJ had time to recover inside the ring. Riddle got in. AJ hooked him in the Styles Clash. Took him a minute to get it on, and Riddle's head was really close to the mat. And I've said before that I just don't like the Styles Clash. It's a dangerous looking move. If I was a wrestler, I would not want to take it. I'd be scared shitless. And just it always makes me hold my breath a little bit whenever I see it. And Riddle's head just came awfully close there. A little too close for comfort for me. But anyway, AJ hits the Styles Clash, gets the pin on Riddle, wins the match. And the bodyguard in the first week does his job. So it's kind of, tale of two, worlds there, with Retribution naming their leader. They've got all this newfound momentum, and then they lose their first match. AJ brings out a new, side of his gimmick or personality or character, and he wins, and the bodyguard does his job. So feels so out of balance there. But anyway, what do you guys think about the bodyguard stuff, and how long do you think something like this can go? And if it's going to be a point where it's going to be like an MJF and Wardlow, or a deal where you can tell there's a light at the end of the tunnel here, there's going to be an ending. Maybe AJ will start treating this guy like crap, and verbally abusing him, which would just be crazy. AJ's the size of this guy's leg, so why he would want to piss him off, I have no idea. But if AJ gets a little cocky or thinks that he's his boss or whatever, and does what Heenan did to Andre and slaps him around a little bit like a WrestleMania 6, AJ could be in trouble. But this guy's so stupidly enormous. I'm curious what he can do. I don't know how many years he's been in the PC, and how good he's gotten. If he can do anything even sort of physical in there, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch him work. He can't be any worse than the Great Khali. Think if he had, even if he has mobility like Sid or something, I think would be okay. Hopefully he's not horrendous. Because he's so freaking huge. And next to AJ Styles, it was kind of hilarious watching them together. But yeah, I don't know the exact height on him. Daniel, what's up, man? Appreciate the $2. Cowboys 10, Cardinals 38. Oh yeah, there you go. Poor Cowboys, man. Poor Cowboys. Poor Prescott. My God. Oh, I didn't notice Alexa's hair. That's cool. I actually kind of like that. I think that would be cool if, as we go through TV here, Alexa, because she already does look a little bit different, but if they did a really, really slow transformation to where she started resembling the Fiend a little bit more. You can only go so far with that, but yeah, maybe changing the hair where it slowly kind of forms, hair like the Fiend has. And, maybe slowly as you go, darken up her makeup a little bit to where it's a slow, gradual process to where if you fast forward 3 months from now, she looks completely different than she does now. But just do it slowly, 1 week at a time. But doing things slowly and taking their time and doing things right is not what WWE likes to do. But I think that would be cool if she just slowly, it would be I don't know, I don't watch horror movies, but aren't there movies like that? If you get bitten by a monster, you slowly turn into the monster, shit like that, right? So just do that with Alexa. I think it would be kind of cool. Like I said, I'm loving the two of them together. After the Riddle and AJ Styles match, we had a Drew McIntyre promo backstage, and he's just talking about the Hell in a Cell match with Randy Orton, and he says that he's going to stick around. Orton has got a scheduled promo for later on. He's like, I might just stick around for that. So you knew that the show was going to close with some sort of a McIntyre and Orton final confrontation before Hell in a Cell, probably a brawl or something is kind of what I thought they would do. And it seemed like they were just setting the table for that here. Then we come to the top of the first hour, or the top of the second hour, I'm sorry. And Asuka is defending the title against Lana. Now, this was set up last week. Lana won that Battle Royal. She's gone through a table, courtesy of Nia Jax and the Samoan Drop for 4 straight weeks. But somehow, because of that table spot last week, she was never eliminated, allowed herself to come back in, dump out Natty, and she won the Battle Royal, earning herself a title match here. And then there were a couple of stories going around online, and she had a couple of social media posts to where they're almost trying to make her look babyface-ish. You know, she had one really stupid Twitter post where she said she was campaigning to be Raw Women's Champion. She already has the title shot, so she doesn't need to campaign. She needs to get her ass in the ring and win a match. So it's not really how it works. And if she is campaigning and she wants us to vote for her, I'm going to need to see a ballot because I'm voting for somebody else. And then she, you know, Asuka laughs at her. People like make fun of her on social media. So then she posts a video where she's kind of like in tears and nobody believes in me and I'm going to show you guys. And I'm like, no, Lana, you're not going to show us. You are not winning the title on Raw. You're not. No title for Lana. So I was not expecting her to win here, but some people were, because there's been talk of WWE wanting to directly mess with Miro in AEW. And maybe one way to do that is to put the title on his wife and say, hey, look, she won a title before your ass did, or I don't know, something like that. But the way it's looked in recent weeks is WWE's kind of burying Lana by just punishing her, having her go through a table every single week. And it seems like that's a way to take a little stab at Miro here too. So I did not think in a million years that Lana was going to be winning the title here at all. And this came at the top of the second hour. It's not like, or the beginning of the second hour, it's not like this is a prime time for a title change. There's no way. And of course, you know, Lana had a tiny bit of offense, but in the end, Asuka was able to tap her out. Thank God. And she was immediately attacked. I mean, I think before Lana even really tapped, Shayna Baszler or Nia Jax music hits, and Shayna and Nia hit the ring and they attack Asuka, and then they attack Lana again, and Nia brings her on the outside of the ring, and Samoan drops her through the table again. 5 weeks in a row, poor Lana goes through the table. Asuka's in the ring battling with Baszler, which was cool. She fights off Baszler, jumps out of the ring, and is able to get away. So she successfully defended her title here against Lana. I know that WWE can be a little crazy sometimes, but I think that's even beyond their limits of stupidity, is take a strong champion like Asuka and have Lana win. I don't even care if there's outside interference or what. It would just be silly to put a title that has a pretty decent amount of prestige. We talked about this yesterday on the podcast. The last 3 champions were Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Asuka. That ain't too shabby. Lana being thrown in there, you know, come on. And probably before that, it was probably Charlotte or something, or whoever the hell had it. So, you know, there's the title is too good for Lana right now. She's just not capable. So I'm glad that that didn't wind up happening. After Asuka gets away, they cut to commercial, come back, and we've got a Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler promo. They're talking about how they're the best or some shit. And then we start getting joined by all of these other female tag teams. The first one to come out is Mandy and Dana. Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke. They come out first. The next team to come out is Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans. Lacey was just recently drafted to Raw from SmackDown, but Peyton, they just went through the whole trouble of breaking up the Iconics, and now she's back in wrestling in a tag team match on Raw. Oh, God. So that was funny. Everybody was flipping out about that on Twitter tonight. That was kind of funny. And the next team, the third team that comes out to confront them, are the Riot Squad. Ruby Riot and Liv Morgan, drafted to SmackDown during the draft, on Raw the first week. You know, last week they had Braun Strowman and New Day on SmackDown. I think even Jeff Hardy might have been there after he was drafted. Everybody who's drafted is going to the shows in the first week. They're not even waiting. They're not even making some shit up or some silly-ass rule. They're just doing it right off the bat here. And I understand that the tag team champions for the women are a floating title, but the champions float, not the challengers. It's not how it's supposed to work. It's so stupidly annoying. And I know everybody's there and at the show and at your disposal. And if you decide you want to use somebody, you can bring them in, but then why do the draft to begin with? I have been criticizing the draft for weeks. I don't even know why people get excited about it. I don't know why people make mock drafts. None of this shit matters at all. It doesn't matter at all. They don't need to even have a draft. The brand split means nothing. And I'll tell you what, we got Survivor Series coming up next month. And if their plan is to do the Raw and SmackDown thing, no thank you. If WWE thinks this fan gives a rat shit about brand supremacy or whatever, they are sorely mistaken. I do not care. You shouldn't even be doing this. Just if you want to use everybody on the shows, then use everybody, and don't pretend that people are exclusive to one show when they're clearly not, and you can move them any given week. It's just they constantly do this, and they don't even waste any time. They don't even wait to let the talent breathe. And we talked so much about the New Day split, and what we laid out yesterday during the podcast, the big plan to get Big E to WrestleMania to beat Roman Reigns. And if you can have New Day and Big E not see each other or come into contact with each other on television at all until Big E is celebrating and he turns around like Eddie Guerrero did at WrestleMania 20 like Benoit did at WrestleMania 20 to see Eddie standing there. He turns around to see Xavier and Kofi standing there. They do the big embrace and the whole thing. That could just be an amazing moment if you just have fucking patience. But WWE doesn't have any patience, and it's proven here every single week. So that bothered me right off the bat. Why the hell are Ruby and Liv there? This is so dumb. You could have just done a one-on-one match with Mandy and Dana. Or 2-on-2 match, or tag team match with the two. Like, what was the point? In the end, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler won, obviously, and Nia Jax pinned Lacey Evans. So Peyton's new team lost right off the bat, and I'm assuming that's not a team. They were just thrown together for tonight's segment, but still pretty stupid. It's like they dropped the Iconics for the Idiotics. I don't understand what they were even doing there. After that was interesting. We got Elias, who returned last week, and he promised to give us and perform a live concert, something that living in the COVID era right now, people haven't been able to do in quite a while. So he was going to perform. I was assuming it was going to be the typical Elias thing, where he's in the ring with his guitar. He'll sing for 30 seconds. Somebody will interrupt him, probably Jeff Hardy, and then they'll brawl, and that's just the way, that was literally what Elias did every single week, whether he was a heel or a babyface. His segments were formulaic. Every single one of them were the same, and there wasn't a difference between any of them. This was a lot different. He was on stage. He had a band with him. Apparently, he has a legit album coming out next Monday. I forget the name of it, of course. And he sang a couple of songs, and he completed both songs, so nobody even came out and interrupted him or anything like that. He had a backup band now. He plugged a new album, like I said, that comes out next Monday. The first song was Amen, and the other song was Landslide, something land. I forgot what the fuck it was. But anyway, he sang two songs, and then gets on the mic and he goes, "Thank you, I love none of you," which is a great line. And then I guess he's about to sing again. He's like, "Oh, you want an encore? I'm going to sing you one more song." And then one of the band members, he's got his back turned, he's got a jacket on and a hood, and he starts just going to town on the guitar, doing a little guitar solo there. And Elias gets pissed, and it's going to turn around and be Jeff Hardy, obviously. So Elias is like, "Hey, man, what are you doing over there?" And he turns around and takes the hood off to reveal it's Hardy, and he attacks Elias. Elias scurries away, and Jeff sabotages us getting another song out of Elias. So I don't appreciate that, Jeff. Jeff does some music, too. They might wind up doing a Battle of the Bands thing here. I'm inclined to believe that Elias is a little more musically talented than Jeff. Jeff seems odd to me. But at least there's a little bit of continuity here, because this is all still, these two feuding dates back to Jeff Hardy and the Sheamus angle when they were doing the drunk thing, and he had the drunk crash outside and he injured Elias, but, he didn't really do it. He was drugged, but Elias is still blaming him. So, that's kind of the crux of the feud here. But, I don't know if it's a feud I really care about, because I just feel it's going to wind up turning into the same stuff that Elias always does. And he, a lot like Strowman and a lot like a few other guys, he's a guy that seems to, bounce between being a babyface and a heel an awful lot. And, I don't know in the end. I think Jeff Hardy's a little bit bigger of a star to work with than some other people that he's had feuds with. But, in the end, I don't know if it's going to do much to change what Elias represents on the roster and the type of role that he has. He'll always have TV time, but will he ever be champion? Probably not. That's just my guess. We'll see. I like Elias. I know a lot of my female listeners love him too. He's dreamy. SD Jones versus Baron von Raschke. Raschke would kick his ass, Paul Roman. Yeah, Barry, I knew that. Jeff Hardy made his themes songs in TNA. And I remember there was the one thing, I think it was on a Hardy Boys DVD or whatever. Me and my friend Daniel, I remember us laughing about this. It was one of the early ones, and they had something in Jeff Hardy's backyard, and he had this weird, I don't know, just weird creation, and he called it like a Magi Nation or something like that. And just like the way he would say it and the way he would talk about it, and I'm like, dude, what are you reading and what are you smoking? So funny. He just seems a little out there, but Jeff's awesome. You know, just kind of funny. A Magi Nation. I think it was, maybe it was a tape, or maybe it was on the VHS tape. I don't remember. It was a while ago, but I just remember laughing my ass off about that. Hey, you guys, do me a favor, by the way. Smash the thumbs up there and below the video for me. Help me get my likes up, y'all. And subscribe if you're not subscribed. We need more of those, too, always. What do we have after the Elias and Jeff Hardy stuff? It was, oh, yeah, the New Day. We had a New Day promo followed by a Kofi, Kingston, and Sheamus match. New Day's in the ring. There, I think they talked a little bit about being separated from Big E. Big E, by the way, is in the Thunderdome topless. He's there right on the hard cam, so he's got a presence there tonight. He's watching his boys come out for this segment. Sheamus is on the ramp, and he says, you know, there's only two of the three of you here, so that means that you're two turds. You're two turds of New Day, which I hated to smile at, but I did. Seems like a babyface line, not a heel line. The New Day then goes on to call Sheamus ashy. Says he's ashy, which I also laughed at pretty hard. And this is going to be Kofi Kingston versus Sheamus one-on-one. I think they go to commercial after that and come back maybe, and we get the Kofi and Sheamus match. Pretty good match here. Big E is making all sorts of commotion on the outside there in the Thunderdome, rooting on his partner. Xavier is at ringside. Kofi hits the Trouble in Paradise and gets the win on Sheamus. So, again, I don't know, what the future of Sheamus is really going to be either. He seems to be losing a lot. And now he just got to Raw, and he's dropping matches right off the bat. So, we'll see. Hey, thank you very much, Gabriel, for the $2. It's been a while. Miss hearing Raw lives with you. I know. Well, hopefully you'll like this one, and welcome back. Where have you been, man? I know Raw's been a little weird. Life has been a little weird. Ooh, do I see Titus joining Retribution? If you would have asked me that yesterday, I would have been like, I don't know, probably not. But based on what we saw tonight with the Hurt Business stuff, I could see that. That would make sense, actually. They might need to add some members, but, I mean, at this point, what would Titus really bring to the table for them, They already look like a joke. Oh, speaking of Retribution, that was up next. So, actually, now that you mentioned him, did I write that down? Let's talk about that now, just because I don't have it in my notes here, but I remembered it. I must not have jotted it down. But anyway, there was the segment backstage where Titus O'Neil approaches the entire Hurt Business and tells MVP that he thinks he'd be a great addition to the Hurt Business. And he goes, look, I dressed the part, I looked the part, I'd be perfect for you guys. And he does, especially with the way Titus dresses. He's always dressing fly and dope and fresh. He's awesome. So, but he's a little, I don't know, he's almost just like too good of a guy to be in the Hurt Business. So I kind of had a feeling as soon as he approached them that they were going to deny him. But he's like, what do you think? And then MVP's like, yeah, you definitely dressed the part. Hold on a minute. Let me confer with my crew over here. Let me talk with my buddies. So he goes over there. He barely says anything. And he turns around and he goes, we talked about it and we're in business. And Titus is like, all right. And he starts shaking their hands. He goes, no, we're not in business with you. We're in business. Like, we're in Hurt Business. And then they attack him, beat the hell out of poor Titus O'Neil, which made me very upset. Please do not hurt Titus. And left him laying there. So maybe Titus joins Retribution to get Retribution on Hurt Business. I don't know. I hope they don't do the deal where he then approaches Retribution to join the group and then they beat the shit out of him too. I don't want to see Titus O'Neil get the Lana treatment. He's way too good for that. But if they wanted, because Titus, another thing you got to remember about him, he's a big, he's a big PR guy. WWE sends him to do all the appearances and stuff, and he's just he's just a good dude. So if he did turn heel on television, they probably don't want to do that with him. But if they did have him join the Hurt Business and they gave him a different attitude, I think he would fit in there. Dude's a monster. And if they gave him an attitude and he went out there and just murdered a couple of people on television prior to joining the Hurt Business, and maybe MVP went and recruited him, I'd get behind that in a second. But just given who Titus is and everything, it just probably wouldn't make sense for him to be a heel right now. But I'd be willing to give it a chance. I just hope they don't make him look even dumber next week if he approaches Retribution. But we'll have some matches now, I guess. Apollo and Ricochet, and they were working with the Hurt Business for so long. Maybe Titus will work a few matches with them, and he'll have to either have one match or maybe a few matches. What's his name? Fred. What's Darren Young up to these days? Call him up. Say, what you got going on these days? You want to come help your friend Titus fend off these Hurt Business guys? He's outnumbered 4-2. You could join him. And what were they? What was the name of the team? I can't remember the name of the team. Primetime Players, right? Primetime Players. Bring back the Primetime Players. I guess that would really not do much. It would just pretty much be the same thing that we got out of Ricochet and then Apollo feuding with those guys, but who knows? Might be an opportunity to bring somebody back. What was next? Oh, yeah. Oh, God. So I just ranted on the on the draft here, and for a minute I was worried that I was going to have to be pissed again, because I don't understand how they draft somebody to one brand and then they bring them on the next brand the next week. So when the Miz and Morrison came out to the ring and started talking shit, and then Tucker showed up and said that he was going to scour the globe for a tag team partner to take them on, I knew, because we saw the Riot Squad on the show, I'm like, I knew it was going to be Otis. I'm like, Tucker's going to bring out Otis, and I'm going to be all pissed about the draft. But finally, WWE did the right thing. They kept Otis on SmackDown, and instead Tucker debuted a brand new wrestler from Mexico, El Grande Gordo. And he apparently has the potential to be as good as Rey Mysterio one day and maybe follow in the footsteps of him. So he comes highly touted, and he's been a big free agent. I can't believe AEW didn't get him. Somehow WWE signed him out of nowhere. Nobody heard of this guy signing prior to today, and then Tucker just blasts us with him out of nowhere, and you're like, holy shit, it's El Grande Gordo. He signed with WWE. Excellent job, and kudos to the company for keeping that under wraps. So he shows up and to team with Tucker, and Miz and Morrison are all freaked out. They think he's Otis because he's like a little bit bigger. So what? You never seen a bigger luchador before? Get the fuck out of here, Miz. It's clearly not him. Use your brains, you idiots. So Tucker and this guy, he's brand new. They've never teamed together before, and they had great chemistry throughout the whole thing, and wound up pinning, or Gordo did, in his debut, pins the Miz. And later on backstage, they were celebrating with Mandy and the New Day, and everybody really seemed to welcome this new member of the roster into the company here. And I think he's just got excellent potential. I think WWE should maybe be careful on his push a little bit. You don't want to have a repeat of like Sin Cara, or somebody else that came in with a lot of high hopes, and WWE really had plans for them. Then it kind of like fizzles because they don't really live up to that hype. So WWE's got to be careful about how they push Gordo. But I think at minimum, we're talking 2-3 years from now, this guy should be main eventing WrestleMania, and it would be perfect time, if Rey Mysterio retires officially, for him to pass that torch to Gordo, maybe even have Gordo induct him into the Hall of Fame. Probably be one of the most heartwarming moments in like the history of the business. So I, for one, am really rooting hard for El Gran Gordo, and I hope it all works out for him. And welcome to the WWE, and congrats on your opening victory there. After that, we had the Firefly Funhouse segment. This was so fun. Bray, we knew we were going to get this earlier on, and Bray shows up. It's a season premiere, not only of Raw, but also the Firefly Funhouse. He says that he has all the characters there, including Ramblin' Rabbit, who, they're talking about new beginnings and how being on Raw is a new beginning. And Rabbit says something like, I want to be a better father and husband. And Bray's like, you have a wife? I didn't know you have a wife. And Ramblin's like, well, you never asked. And Bray says, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, little buddy. I apologize. I'm going to try my best. I promise to be a better friend. And they kind of do a cut scene of all the times that Ramblin' Rabbit was murdered. And why can't I remember the name of the dinosaur thing? After they run through the montage there, the dinosaur thing eats Ramblin' Rabbit. So just as he wants to be a better father and husband, he gets murdered. That's very sad. He says something, Bray says something about like fresh starts and fresh meat or whatever. There's then a knock on the door, and Bray goes over to open the door, and in walks Alexa Bliss, big smile on her pretty face. and walks in, and they kind of stand there together. And we've never, well, I guess we've seen who, Rollins and maybe Cena. I can't remember how many people we've actually seen on the Funhouse, but seeing Alexa come in there and kind of standing with him on top of what we've been seeing with the two of them in the ring was just an awesome visual. I loved it. I used it as a thumbnail here. And to me, Alexa and The Fiend were the stars of this show. It was all really well done. And then she does she says the fun has just begun. And then they say bye, and she does the wave. Oh my God. Terrific stuff. I loved that segment. This was one of the more fun houses I can remember in recent memory. Oh, Darren Young's in New Japan? He is? What the hell? I didn't know that. No, Walrus was not in the Funhouse tonight. Some bright people in the chat tonight. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Was that during that match, during the Tucker and Gordo match? When did R-Truth show up? Yeah, that was in that match. He showed R-Truth ran through the ring randomly, and he was being tailed, I guess, by Gulak and Tozawa, and they had something getting involved there. I think that was enough to cause the distraction of what got the Miz pinned, I think. Kind of forgot about R-Truth. No title change tonight. I thought they might be on the fast track here to do one a week for R-Truth. That's the way it seemed. But he was able to escape tonight with the title. We'll see what happens next week. That really only left us with the main event, or the final match, I should say. It wasn't the main event segment, but it was the final match, and that was Braun Strowman versus Keith Lee. Now, we talked about this yesterday, and I kind of half-assed predicted a Strowman victory here because it reminded me of what went on with Kevin Owens just a week or so ago when he worked with The Fiend on SmackDown and then had to turn around and work with Aleister Black on Raw. And I was like, I don't think he's going to drop a Friday match and then a Monday match like that. He's going to beat Aleister. And he did. So Strowman was kind of in the same situation here. He got beat down by Roman Reigns. I mean, Reigns beat him with a submission and then wore his ass out with a chair. He had a rough weekend. So he's back here now taking on Keith Lee. He's not really 100%, and I know WWE's not really above making Strowman look bad. They buried him more than once in his career. But I didn't see him really going down here to Keith Lee. And but at the same time, I was hoping that WWE would know that the fans are going to be pissed if they do another disqualification or they do another count out with these guys now that it's a sanctioned match or whatever. Still doesn't mean they can't do a schmaz finish. Luckily they didn't, but they did find a way out of it when Lee's got him like he's going to go powerbomb or pile drive him or whatever, and Strowman's head's between his legs, and he kind of comes up and he catches Keith Lee with a low blow. Intentional or not, it was enough to knock him out, and Strowman was able to beat him. Keith Lee is pissed. After the match, he gets up and I think he kicks Strowman right in the nuts. Strowman falls like just a redwood tree. He falls right down, and Lee stands over him and gets in his face, and says, "This isn't over, and you messed with the wrong guy," and all that shit. So it makes me think that they could add this match to Hell in the Cell, because I still think we only have 3 official matches. I mean, come on here. So they might be doing Keith Lee and Braun Strowman. I don't know, but I suppose it was an acceptable way. I mean, if they're going to book this match, which I think they could have waited, they did not need to do Strowman and Keith Lee tonight on Raw unless they intended it to have a rematch at Hell in the Cell. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this match at all, especially right after Strowman worked with Roman on Friday. So that kind of leads me to believe they are going to make this match official, but they also couldn't do the DQ and stuff, so they had to get out of it some way. I suppose that's acceptable. Weird low blow. Yeah, Lee lost, but, almost like Archer, sort of on Wednesday. Archer was pinned in the crucifix by Moxley, but he got right up. It was like he wasn't, they kind of made it to where, yeah, he had to lose, but, he didn't get knocked out or pinned or, decisively beaten kind of thing. It could be viewed as a fluke or whatever. So they tried to do the same thing here with Lee, I suppose. And if they do a rematch and Lee wins, then, he'll look pretty good in the end. But I don't know what the rush is with WWE. Strowman and Lee is a match that you could wait on. You could have these guys doing separate things on the card and let the fans figure it out in their head and say, ooh, you know what? What would be cool? To see Lee and Strowman on opposite sides. Let us come to that conclusion. Let us give us both of these guys to where we are saying, okay, that's what we want. Instead of just giving it to us before we even know we want it type of thing. And then you suck at it and all of that. In the beginning of the show, when Alexa and The Fiend were in the ring together, it immediately made me think of Karrion Kross and Scarlett. I'm like, how cool would that confrontation be? You know, there's your WrestleMania main event right there. Mixed tag team match, Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss versus Scarlett and Karrion Kross. The Demon, Finn Balor, is your special guest referee, and the Boogeyman is your one-man commentary team. You tell me that wouldn't draw 80,000? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it would. That would be phenomenal. So we'll see what they do down the road with Lee and Strowman, but I would think that's going to be a Hell in a Cell match on Sunday. After that, we've got the Randy Orton promo. This is the main event segment. They lowered the cage, and that thing is as red as it's ever been. So it's not like I was expecting it to go anywhere, but it's one of the things about the cell these days that I hate. The fact that it's red and the fact that the structure itself has changed so much. You know, it's much more efficient the way they build it now and everything, I'm sure. But you know, just how big it is and how tall it got to get, like 2 times higher than it was, you know, during the first one. And it just doesn't look as demonic anymore. It just kind of resembles a toy. So the big red cage is down. It's lowered. Randy Orton comes out to the ring, and he starts talking about, you know, because I don't know a lot of recent history, so you guys have to fill me in. But he was talking about how this will be his 8th Hell in the Cell match. He's been in the Hell in the Cell 7 times. He's had matches with guys like Daniel Bryan, which I don't remember, Undertaker, Jeff Hardy, which was kind of recently, and I think even Mark Henry. He pointed out Mark Henry, who was also in the Thunderdome, by the way, watching. And he says that he won 2 WWE titles in the Cell. Wow, my memory is shit. I don't even remember hardly any of this. I remember the Taker Hell in the Cell, I think. I definitely remember the Hardy one. I don't much remember the Daniel Bryan one. Was that the one where Shawn Michaels was the referee? Maybe I do remember that. But the 2 WWE titles, I don't know. You guys have to help me out with some of the better Randy Orton Hell in the Cell matches. But he clearly has the advantage here in terms of experience. I don't think Drew's been in any, has he? That I can think of. So this ought to be fun. And, you know, he talked about how Drew accuses him of never working for anything in his life and having everything handed to him, and he's never earned anything. He's like, the hell I haven't. I've been in 7 of these damn things, and I've fought some awesome opponents, and I've come out on the winning end a couple of times too, and won some championships, so fuck off, was basically his point, and Orton kind of had a point in that. After that, that's when McIntyre comes out. Of course, they are separated by the big red cell. Orton's on the other side. He's taunting the hell out of McIntyre. Come on, come get me, come get me. And so we're all expecting McIntyre, because he's a big, strong guy, right? We're all expecting him to rip off the cage or punch the cage or just bash through the cage, claymore the cage, do something to get through there and get your hands on Randy Orton. But instead, he reaches over the barricade into the dome and pulls out a pair of bolt cutters, which I just found comical, because a big, strong babyface champion should break the door down, right? It's just one chain. Come on. Ultimate Warrior broke a chain. Hercules broke a chain. So many guys break chains. You can do it, Drew. But instead, he takes, I guess, the smarter route, really. No need to expend your energy if you got a tool right there. Snaps the chain off. He enters the cage. He kind of closes it behind him as the show goes off the air. So we get the big cliffhanger there, assuming that they're still, right now, as we speak, kicking the shit out of each other in the cell. And I think the match is going to be good on Sunday between the two. I think all 3 are set up to be good. I think it's going to be really hard to top and screw up Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. That's going to be fantastic. I think Sasha and Bayley could potentially have one of the better women's matches in history if it's really done right. You know, when we look back and say, okay, that one was really good. I think they've got potential there, and I think McIntyre and Orton have the same thing, just you know, based on their size and the viciousness of the feud and all of that. So we're going to do predictions this Saturday, and the Winged Eagle will be up at regular time on Saturday, so we'll knock out Hell in the Cell predictions there. Right now, since we only have 3 matches, off the top of my head, I don't know if I'll have these exact same predictions on Saturday, but I would predict McIntyre, Sasha, and Roman to win. McIntyre, Roman retain, Bayley drops it. That's what I think, but we'll have official predictions on Sunday or on Saturday, excuse me, and we'll talk about it there. And I'm really curious how many matches they're going to have here. With 3 Hell in the Cell matches, Hell in the Cell matches also tend to go a little bit longer, so I'm okay with them shaving the card down. I don't need 9 matches. Give me 6. Give me 6. 3 more is all we need. 3 non-cell matches, 3 cell matches, one after the other. Start with what would you start with? What would be when you have 3 Hell in the Cell matches, I'm almost certain they're going to start with 1. Who are they going to start with? McIntyre and Drew? Who's going to be the main event? These are all interesting questions. What do y'all think? Hey, K-Dogs Kendall, how are you, man? I'm good. Yeah, Mark Henry broke the real lock with his bare hands. So many guys have broken chains and fences before, man. Mankind, the referee for this match? You mean the one coming up? I don't think Foley can get up and down that well for 3 counts. Okay, so he won against Daniel Bryan and once against Cena. Okay, so I was thinking that... So the Bryan and Orton match, though, in 2013, Orton didn't win the title there, right? He was already the champion. Didn't he win at SummerSlam? He cashed in or something, right? When Bryan won it? So what was the title wins? John Cena and Randy Orton, Hell in the Cell 2009. That must have been one. Oh, Cena twice, 2009 and 2017. 2017? For real? I probably have a review of it up on my channel. I just don't remember. Henry was 2011. Okay, Bryan 2013. Hardy 20. Yeah, Hardy match I remember. I remember a little bit about the 09 Cena match because I remember that build slightly from Raw. And I remember 05 with Taker. Yeah, start with Drew's cell. I kind of agree. Poor McIntyre is still yet to main event a pay-per-view. Oh, it was vacant. Okay. I just remember Bryan winning. Then he beat Cena at 13. And then he immediately, and Triple H was the ref. He immediately lost to Orton. So how did it get vacated? Even Lesnar broke the cell. Exactly. I mean, yeah, and the big red cage is built by Mattel, so even I could break that. Come on, Drew. Maybe Drew's pulling like a Cody. I mean, if you think about, like, he had all that help in the ambulance match, maybe he's doing like a subtle heel turn. Maybe just a subtle turn here and there, week by week. He'll do something that's just a little bit out of character, and it'll kind of grow and morph into a more, heelish character. And I'm always for that because we talked about that before. There's a very small list of wrestlers who have turned in the middle of a world title run. And I know there's more, but the 2 biggest ones that I can think of is Randy Savage and CM Punk. Savage turned heel right when the Mega Powers exploded when he was still champion. Punk did the same thing, GTSing The Rock. That was all good stuff, and it's interesting when they try to pull off something like that with a champion. I think maybe even Bray Wyatt sort of did too, maybe. So it's kind of a rare thing, but point me out some other examples if that's happened or not. And maybe McIntyre could try to do that. Okay. Oh, yeah. The title was vacated in 2013 after the BS finish of Night of Champions, the referee fast count. Was that Armstrong? Or was that another ref? Why do I think Armstrong was like duped into doing something? Yeah, it's kind of coming back to me now. Wow, 7 years ago. That's right. Now I kind of remember. Yeah, I think Sasha and Bayley would be the likely main event here, but I think there's also we talked about this yesterday too. There's just so much story, so much ridiculous story there with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. You can make a case for that just because of the drama that is going to exist at the end. And we talked about that yesterday in the podcast. What's brilliant about that match and why I think the Roman and Uso storyline is so good is that we know 100% who's winning the Hell in the Cell match between those two. it ain't going to be Jey Uso. We know exactly what's going to happen, but yet this match still probably has our interest more than any others, including Sasha and Bayley, arguably. Maybe not for some, but I think for me, I just think the Roman and Jey Uso stuff is so good that it's not really about the fact that Roman is going to retain the title and carry that belt into WrestleMania in all likelihood. It's more about, are we going to be attending Jay's funeral next week or not? To me, that's the bigger story. It's not going to matter of who's going to win. Is Jay going to walk out of there with his life? And, Jimmy's going to be involved there, and that cage is going to add a lot of dramatic effect. If you got Jimmy now, unlike last time where he threw the towel in, he can throw the towel all he wants. All it's going to do is bounce off that red cage. So he's in a jam. And, Heyman out there doing his thing with his facial expressions and his reaction, and Roman in the ring, maybe wrestling with himself a little bit because he did kind of look somewhat frustrated on SmackDown when he had to lay out Jey Uso. And he's like, that was your last chance, man. You forced me. I have to do this even though I don't want to. I'm going to have to completely gut you in the Hell in the Cell. And, seeing that and seeing all that play out from an emotional perspective from Roman and in his facial expressions and the way he reacts and stuff, I think has all been so good. And it's going to be good. In a match that we 100% know the outcome, it's probably the most intriguing of all of them on the card. And that's not a knock on the other matches. Orton and Drew and Sasha and Bayley in their own right are both going to be great. It's a credit, to how good this storyline actually is. And for all the flaky nonsense that we see and all the head-scratching booking, every now and then they can get one right. And this one is fantastic. So whoever's responsible for this, Bruce or whoever else, A+, man. I'm looking forward to it. But who should be the main event? I think based on who kind of deserves it, quote unquote, would probably be Sasha and Bayley, just how long this whole thing's been going on. But a case can also be made for Drew. He's your champion. He's a guy that beat Brock in the main event of WrestleMania. He hasn't main evented a pay-per-view yet. Why the hell not? And he's working with Randy Orton, no less. So I suppose a case can be made for all of them. Do I think Rikishi can make an appearance during this? Yes. I would love for Rikishi to make an appearance in this. And, I mean, WWE, Jey Uso did the interview where he did say that the plan was to do just a one-off at Clash of Champions, but because everything went so well, they've stretched it and extended it. Who's to say they can't continue to do that? If these guys hit a home run in Hell in the Cell and it gives us one of the most dramatic matches we've ever seen and really just illustrates just what a changed man and what a great character Roman Reigns is. I mean, he is a star. I know everybody liked to shit on him back in the day, but very few people, kind of embody what, a world champion wrestling star should be, and Roman looks every bit the part, and he's doing a great job here. So if they kick ass on Sunday and they're like, let's add some more elements here. Let's add Jimmy, let's get Rikishi in here. I don't know if you can really bring out, Alpha or anybody at this point or anybody else like that, but you could bring out The Rock at some point, which we've talked about, and anybody else, that's still, capable of making an appearance here or there and get them involved and get this even more, get this more over and have Roman even be more of an outcast and, demanding to be the leader of the family and all of this all happening around the holiday times too. I think could add some interest to it. So we'll see. I want them to run with it for as long as they can. Because, it's going to be hard here if Jey Uso has a really, really memorable program here with Roman. Not that he can't go back just to be in the tag team with Jimmy. He absolutely can. The Usos will live on. But he'll, this might make it to where people will no longer say, which one are you? That's what he said in his promo. After this, people are going to remember who he is. And he's got a chance to do that, and I'm rooting for him. So I just love that storyline. It's great stuff. It is great stuff. I agree with Paul Roman. I hope they let Sasha keep the belt for longer than a week. I still cannot believe, I almost didn't believe it when I was told. I never knew about the streak with Sasha. I never knew that she's never successfully defended a title despite winning the title 14 times. Blew my mind. Oh, wow. Yeah, they do. And don't forget the match, is I Quit. It's I Quit match this time too. So it's going to have to be Jay that's doing the quitting, not Jimmy doing it for him. But again, we talked about this yesterday as well. it's not like they still can't do a stupid finish. You know, we've gotten a couple of disqualifications in recent history. If it's an I Quit match, but Jey Uso is unconscious, then Roman is choking him. The referee has to stop the match and ring the bell. Otherwise, he's going to have a dead wrestler on his hands. So it's not like the I Quit match means that they can't fuck it up. They can. They probably will, knowing them. I think in the end, Jey will say it. You know, Roman will, the point of this is just to get Roman over as somebody that's remorseless and vicious. And if I'll do this to my cousin, imagine what I'll do to you type of thing. So I think at some point, Jey is going to have to say uncle, and he's going to fight his balls off. He stretched this thing 2 pay-per-views when we thought it was only going to go to 1. And all of that talk that we mentioned, in previous weeks before Clash, that Roman should annihilate him and bloody him and, completely end him. Maybe now that they've stretched this out, you do it in the cell instead. Certainly a better environment for something like that to break out the blood if you choose to do that. So it should be great. Hey, what's up, AJ Daniels? Good to see you. If Orton doesn't take the title off Drew, then who do I see doing it? Good question. I don't think Orton is going to take the title off of Drew. I suppose he could, but I feel like this is going to have to be the final match, because if Orton wins, then you got to assume you're probably going to have to do another one. Drew's just not going to be out of the title picture then, so if Orton wins, you're going to assume you're then going to have a 4th match, but then we got Survivor Series on the horizon and stuff. I think this is a much better way for Drew McIntyre to end this feud and move into something else, and maybe even wait until he has his next challenging opponent. He might be involved in a tag team type of situation at Survivor Series. It just depends on what they do there. If they decide to do the brand versus brand thing, we might get a Drew and Roman match. I'd actually be into that. That's a rematch from WrestleMania a couple of years ago. Two very strong champions. It might be somewhat intriguing. Probably have to do a schmaz finish in that. I don't want to see either one of those guys beat the other. But you could do that, or you could do the tag team deal and not have any titles on the line at Survivor Series. Not really sure. It's also falling on the 30th anniversary of The Undertaker's debut, like the exact 30th anniversary. We're hoping they do something there as well to acknowledge it, whether Taker's there in person or it's some sort of a tribute. How they can have the show and ignore that fact is beyond me. If they do, I'd be mind blown that they didn't take a chance to capitalize on this very coincidental date that happens to fall on Survivor Series. So we'll see. I don't know what they have planned. Yeah, holding the title until WrestleMania 37, I definitely think Roman will do. K-Dog's Kennel. Dropping it to The Rock, I don't think he'd drop it to The Rock. I think if Rock worked with Roman, he'd put him over. Unless Rock comes in to do more than one match, then you can do a match trade or something like that, like he did with Cena, where you win one, lose one or whatever. But Rock at this stage, and I think it would be, he's talked about it in that interview. He even said it'd be an honor to do the job for him. So he even spoiled the ending. But I think that's the ending you'd have to do. I'm not sure if it would help Roman that much to lose to The Rock. After he hasn't been in the ring since 2013. By the time they finally have that match, it'll be 8 years. Yeah. So I'd have The Rock go down if that was that. But we talked about, if it's not going to be The Rock and they're going to have WrestleMania in Tampa, and it's not going to be here in LA, and it's going to be maybe limited capacity, and we're still in the COVID stuff, and maybe the timing just isn't right for The Rock, then you do the thing with Big E, where you have Big E, win the Rumble and maybe beat Roman for the title. That would be an awesome moment too. But if you do Rock and Roman, you'd have to put Roman over in that situation, unless you put Rock over first and then Roman wins it back. But I don't think that's the right scenario for The Rock. Yeah, if Taker's there and he gets physical, maybe tombstone someone. I mentioned just doing a face-to-face, just face off in the ring with Sting. Have Sting come in, have him do the thing. No physicality, no match. We certainly don't need to see a match, but just to have Undertaker and Sting there, maybe a promo, maybe a show of respect. As a fan, I could accept that. I would like that much more than watching these two farts try to wrestle. If they were just in there doing some epic, confrontation, maybe where the two of them took out, who's just some comedic, idiotic tag team. Miz and Morrison come out and confront them, start putting them down and insulting how old they are. And then Sting and Taker just beat the shit out of them real quick and have the moment together. I'd be into that. I'd totally be into that. But then again, the fact that it's Undertaker's exact 30th anniversary, Sting is almost out of place. I think you just have to have Undertaker out there by himself to salute everybody, or to be, to have his moment there on the 30th anniversary, and maybe some sort of a callback. Maybe Undertaker can be in the ring, and then they'll all around the Thunderdome, they will play, like, instead of the fans' faces, they will have a big video wall of his debut, of him coming to the ring with Roddy Piper and Gorilla doing commentary and Brother Love behind him, and just kind of replay his beginning. That would be cool. I'd like to see that. Some sort of throwback, just some sort of really well-produced, type of tribute to The Undertaker is all I really am asking for. They don't need to do anything crazy. Just give me some sort of a tribute. Give me acknowledge the fact that it's been 30 years to the day that the dude debuted. So I'm hoping they do that. Maybe Taker could tombstone all of Retribution one by one. That's assuming Retribution makes it that far. I actually think they will. They are a team, and Survivor Series is about teams. So Retribution is going to be involved in a Survivor Series match. I really kind of hope it's not against the Hurt Business, because that's still so many weeks away. We're going to be really tired of seeing those teams wrestle each other. And if they wind up being on opposite sides at Survivor Series in an elimination match, we don't need to see that. You can do that on Raw. So we'll see what winds up happening. By the way, did I ever talk about the promo backstage? I don't think I did. I said I would, and I glossed over that. But anyway, the Retribution stuff with Ali backstage. Can't believe did I really skip over that? I don't remember reading this. But anyway, after they lost, we know they lost to the Hurt Business to open up the show. Everybody was freaking out about it on Twitter. They announced on Twitter that there'd be a big announcement later on, and then we get the backstage promo that I said should have opened the show either this week or last week, prior to the draft, with Ali kind of explaining himself and his turn. I think all of this was really poorly timed. So after they got beat, the guy that was the leader prior to Ali coming in was T-Bar. He tapped the fuck out to Lashley, and then the Fiend came in and kicked all 5 of their asses. So now Ali is back there, and he's cutting a promo, and he said, this corrupt company, and he set out a couple of insults, and he's all pissed or whatever. But he said that his power is creating chaos. That's what he does. And you knew something was up, because right after that, he said, all I need to create chaos is a laptop or a cell phone or a device. And I was like, maybe he was the hacker after all. Maybe they're not going to drop the hacker angle. So for about 30 seconds, I'm kind of excited, that I'm like, oh shit, is he kind of teasing something there, that maybe this hacker thing is not dropped after all? And then he says, remember that? It was almost like in passing. It was almost like, oh, by the way, I was the hacker. He was like, remember the hackers on SmackDown? That was me. And he claims to have all sorts of information on every star, and with a click of a mouse or with a click of a touch screen, he can end and ruin anybody's life that he wants. He says that everybody has secrets, and he knows everybody's secrets, and he's going to let them out. Kind of like the timing of the Buddy Murphy and Elias storyline with the Me Too. This is kind of funny too, because, leaks and personal information getting leaked, and private photos and private videos and old message board posts and things like that are getting revealed and leaked all the time. And WWE usually likes to not draw attention to this type of stuff. Now they're making it a storyline, where Ali, if this is true, and he really, in kayfabe, of course, he really has secrets on everybody. Some of those secrets are probably some pretty raunchy sex tapes. So is he going to release those on Monday Night Raw? Probably not. So he now is claiming that he has the power, and he's got information, and he's got dirt on everybody, and he can use that now to his advantage. But at the same time, you can use that to your advantage. You still don't have, your crew now looks so much weaker. They lost her Retribution. They don't have that, they don't have that aura of like ass kicking, very scary people behind them. This promo, I almost thought, even though Ali's delivery and everything was really good, I thought it was just poorly timed, and man, they almost killed 2 things in the same promo. The Retribution angle that's arguably already dead, and then the hacker stuff, which still had potential to be brought back or resurrected, or they could pick it back up sometime in the future. And just upon seeing that and the initial vignettes that they ran for that on SmackDown, all of us were really intrigued. And we were intrigued by the possibility of that person being Ali. So, you know, now that they've kind of made him the leader of Retribution, and oh, by the way, I was this other gimmick too, and I used that time to gather all this information, and now I'm going to start releasing it to the world. We'll see, you know, but I still think this loss that they took to the Hurt Business, you know, hurts them dramatically. So now it's going to be about them having to turn the corner, and Ali turning this into a week by week type of thing where he's outing somebody else or revealing something else. And it better lead to him having some major, crazy, hardcore dirt on a major name. Maybe he comes out and says he has something on Vince McMahon, you know, if they go there. But otherwise, if he's like, I'm gonna out Ricochet, you know, or something like that, about some of, actually Ricochet's had some videos, now that I think about it. But if he just targets, you know, some random wrestler and says, I know secrets and it's just dumb, you know, I feel like they're going to do another whodunit type of thing. Maybe he targets a more major star, I know what you did type of thing. And then there's all this speculation for weeks before the reveal is finally made. Who'd they do that with? It was kind of like the Undertaker Kane thing, you know, or Paul Bearer was claiming that he knew that the Undertaker burned the house down or whatever, some shit like that. So, you know, Ali will probably in the end wind up having some pretty big dirt on somebody. But I don't know. The Retribution stuff is such a mess. Not Xavier Woods. True that. Please don't go looking for any videos of him or Brad Maddox or Paige for that matter. They can just mail Undertaker a toaster for his 30-year anniversary. That's more than enough. Man, toasters are awesome. I just bought one myself recently. I'd be down for a new toaster. Yeah, Mustafa Ali did admit he was the hacker, yes. But it was just kind of the way he did it, which I thought was almost like funny. I mean, part of me was like, oh, wow, they're bringing it back, or they're mentioning the hacker again, which again, I think that this to me just reeks of them not having this original plan, because they haven't mentioned the hacker at all. I think what happened is the hacker was truly dropped. The hacker was probably going to be Ali, and then they had this other idea instead. And so now they're trying to tie the two together, where I bet you that probably wasn't the initial plan. Because if it was, they might have mentioned the hacker or something on SmackDown. They were treating it like a completely dropped angle, and that's because I think it was dropped. But then they probably thought to themselves, actually, we could tie this in, and it would like somewhat make sense, where Ali can say, remember that hacker? That was me, and now I'm here. You know, that all kind of works. So I think they kind of just realized that they could bring it back and have it make sense if they wove it into the storyline. So they did. I don't think it was the all the way back, dating back to the hacker vignettes. I don't think the intention during the hacker vignettes was for him to be a leader of a group called Retribution a few months later. There's no way they were thinking that far ahead. So I think they're pulling this stuff out of their ass like they always do. Just, let's just go with this now. Hey, what's up, Scott Moss? Fantasy booking, Demolition versus New Day versus Freebirds. All 9 wrestlers in a tornado elimination match. I'm going New Day on that one. I don't even have to think very hard on that. Demolition is a trio. Demolition, Axe, and Smash were great as a trio. They were not so great. The Freebirds, they were a classic 80s legendary tag team, but I think the New Day could beat them. I don't know. Bam Bam Gordy could probably beat everybody, all 8 of the other guys' asses by himself. But aside from him, I think New Day is faster, quicker, stronger, better wrestlers than most of those guys. I don't know, though. Barry Darso's a pretty damn good wrestler, too. Oh, there you go. Scott Moss, you repeated that with a super chat with the same match. I never, ever pick the modern team over the old school team, but I'm picking them in this one. I'm picking New Day in that trio. How easy. What's up? Thanks for 5 more. Tune in next week to see Lana get put through a table for the 6th time for Can't Miss TV. How are they going to do it next week? Is she going to have another match? She's going to come out the ring and cut a promo and cry and bitch and moan, and then she's going to come out there and get put through a table again? And how many weeks? Let's start taking bets on that. That would be a fun thing to bet on. What week does it stop? Are we sitting here at week 15 and being like, oh, Lana went through her 15th table, and at what point is this going to be a little bit rough on her back? Ouch. Pan, whatever happened to the Forgotten Sons? They were forgotten. Now that's Jackson Riker showing his big ugly ass to the world, and they're like, nope, we hate you. And I think he kind of alienated himself from the locker room and stuff, and just, I don't know. So they're kind of been put. I never liked the team to begin with, so I didn't really mind that they're off TV. I feel bad for his partners, though, and seem to be good people, good dudes or whatever, so they had to suffer for him. Oh, Madeline, I did see that. Dark Side of the Ring got renewed, and they will be doing 14 episodes. I did see that today. They tweeted something out, even asking for the fan suggestions on what they should do. There's been some good suggestions. 14 is going to be a stretch. 14, there's going to have to be some not so serious ones in there. And if you really think about it, there's so many, like, it's got to be a Dark Side of the Ring. It's got to be, involved in a tragedy, but kind of like how the Herb Abrams one was. There was almost like a comedic tone to it because of how crazy Herb was and everything. So, you can't like make, fun of tragedy or anything like that, but maybe slightly lighthearted, more lighthearted episodes, where if they did I saw one of the suggestions was like Grizzly Smith, that is not going to be a lighthearted episode. That's going to be a difficult episode. It's going to make you sick to your stomach type of episode, that type of thing. I think you need a good balance there between a really gnarly one and then one that's not so bad. And they did that a little bit last season too, with putting the Benoit one next to some other, more fun or more less crazy ones and stuff. So 14 episodes though is a lot. China, of course, top of the list. Probably the Ultimate Warrior would be a good option. Some people have said Plane Ride from Hell. I don't know if you can squeeze a whole episode out of that, but if you're going to do 14, then I think Plane Ride from Hell is definitely a good option. Eddie Guerrero was one, wasn't he? Or was it Benoit? Oh, that was a Benoit episode, yeah. I did mention that, too, in the Benoit review. By the way, the two Dark Side of the Ring reviews that I've done, they're on my channel under special episodes playlist. I did the Owen Hart one and the Benoit review. So those are both up there if you want to check them out. And in the Benoit review, I talked about the Eddie stuff because they really focused a lot on Eddie Guerrero in the Benoit documentary. And Chavo had to retell the story of Eddie's death, and for a minute I almost forgot I was watching Benoit. I felt like I was watching Eddie's documentary because it was very detailed, it was very graphic, and Chavo had to get that out, and you could see it was just murdering him to have to say it, and to have to relive that in his head. To put him through that again, I think I can wait on Eddie just because, we got a lot of that in the Benoit episode, but they probably still will because that's a tragic story. I think the British Bulldog as well would be another good one. Really, all the Hart Foundation members, even Jim Neidhart. Jim Neidhart had a rough go of it too. You could do one maybe on the Hart Foundation because Bret's the only living member. If you do Dark Side of the Ring on 97 Hart Foundation, you can add Pillman in there. And then you can talk about Davey and Owen, of course, who's already had his episode, and Neidhart, and how Bret Hart's the only one left, and how they all had so many tragedies. Dynamite Kid, you could talk about him. So maybe something like that, involving the Harts, because things got bad there, But then you'd have to interview a lot of Hart. You could just do the Hart family because things got really bad after Owen died. You started having divisions in the family. And there's some family members that don't talk to each other. There's been sibling rivalries, and then Stu and Helen's death was very sad, and the Hart family had a rough go of it. Pillman would be an obvious one. You got to do Pillman. Kurt Hennig, yeah. Kurt Hennig would be another one. Kurt Hennig is one of the more frustrating deaths because he died of a cocaine overdose. It's just like, come on, man. So preventable. Oh, yeah, Dynamite Kid already had one. But I'm saying, like, you can incorporate him into whatever you talk about with the Hart family, how far the tragedies stretch, so, sort of thing. Oh, that's cool. That Harry Smith's working with WWE for something on the Bulldog. He was supposed to go into the Hall of Fame, right? Still don't know what they're going to do with the Hall of Fame. You guys saw, we talked about this yesterday in the podcast, you saw the British Bulldog fan from SummerSlam 92 was found. The girl that says British Bulldog's going to win whether he wants to or not. So funny. They tracked her down. She's either done or doing an interview this week. Yeah, so am I. The network's got a lot of good Undertaker content coming up next week, which could be a good indicator that they could be maybe planning something for Survivor Series with Taker if there's going to be a lot of content, in the month of November and stuff on the network. Madeline, no, there is nothing darker than Benoit. There's plenty of dark stories in wrestling, plenty of them. Some of them we've already heard, but it doesn't get much darker than that. I mean, the only ones that really came close would be Bruiser Brody and Owen. A lot of the other tragic deaths and stuff were, a lot of car accidents and things like that. But in terms of just really dark stuff, doesn't get much darker than killing your own wife and kid. It's about as dark as it gets. Yeah, the Bravo one was great. I don't know what's up with WWE and Saudi Arabia. That's the one silver lining of this whole COVID stuff is at least we don't have to worry about them booking shows over there and wasting big main events and doing title changes and stuff like that. And the poor talent has to suffer through extremely stressful and scary travel and getting stranded there and all the other bullshit that happens. If I was a talent, I'd be so thrilled. At least from not having to go through the grind of traveling. I'm sure some of the talent, they might get a little stir crazy if they're kind of more like confined to hotels and there's still social distancing going on and things like that. But, for the most part, if I'm a wrestler and I live in Florida and I can commute to and from Orlando, I am very happy just being able to decompress from the life on the road because that gets old and rough and just rough. So hopefully most of them aren't traveling nearly as much right now, other than going back and forth home. The Black Scorpion. Yeah, well, Snuka they already did too. Oh yes, the Snuka. Yeah, Snuka was up there in terms of dark, because it was. It was almost more gross than dark. I mean, it just made you just sick because he's so fucking stupidly guilty, obviously. But again, there's a difference between that and like actually choking out and murdering your own 8-year-old son. Just the thought of that is just insane. Yeah, Magnum TA would be a good episode. Magnum TA would be another one that I wouldn't choose if they were going to do like 6 episodes. But if they're announcing 14 episodes coming out, you can have some throwaway ones. Not that Magnum would be a throwaway one, but they could definitely fill an episode on his potential. Because, man, I swear I would have loved to just go back in time and be able to see what he would have done without that accident and how long it would have taken for him to make the jump. Because he would have gone to WWE. He would have gone in like 91 or 2 with Flair, or, because everybody made it there. Flair, Sid, Vader, all the, the big names in WCW eventually, went up there. The only one that didn't was Sting. And if WCW recognized the fact that they have a legitimate competition to Hulk Hogan, because Magnum had the look, he had the size, he was better in the ring than Hogan. He had that handsome look, that Tom Selleck type of look, the Magnum TI look or PI look, and the mustache and the whole deal. He had everything. The ladies loved him, and he was that. He had the motorcycle too, just like Hogan did, and he had a good physique, and he was maybe like he was a little bit less cartoony and a little bit less lame. He had a more appeal to maybe a younger, an older audience than Hogan did. Hogan was a superhero. Hogan was a cartoon character, where Magnum TA was just your awesome wrestling character, babyface, great Southern wrestler, women throwing their panties at him, that type of thing. And he could be like a Beatle, but with a different part of the wrestling audience. And that could have been a really good 1-2 punch in the North and the South, to have Hogan, on top, dominating, WWF, and Magnum running all over the South, being as big a star and drawing as big a crowds as Hogan did anywhere Hogan went, but for a completely different audience. Like, that would have been fun to watch. That could have brought an early beginning to what would become the Monday Night Wars. We would have had the heavy promotion wars if you have a star on the other side. Because they had Ric Flair, but WWE was doing such a better job with the marketing and everything with Hogan. If you get a guy that looks a little bit like him and also proves to be, better in the ring with the same amount of charisma, and draw the same type of pops and the same type of crowd, you got a legitimate and is also a babyface, where Flair was a heel. You have that would have been fun just to see. It would have been like Stone Cold and Goldberg. very similar to that type of dynamic that we saw in the Monday Night Wars. And if you could rewrite history and save Magnum from that crippling accident, it would have been awesome to see where he would have gone. And then if Vince did bring him in, then the inevitable clash between him and Hogan, and Hogan being a dick and would probably pull his political power to screw over Magnum, most likely. But yeah, it could have had a bad ending anyway. Even if it didn't happen, WWE might have brought him in and ruined him, or he would have bounced back and forth a little bit, went to WWE. It didn't work out there, goes back to WCW, just like Flair did, and a lot of guys did. I could see him doing that as well. Barry Windham, Sid, a lot of those guys went back and forth. Oh, let's go to WWE now. Oh, sucks here. We'll go back. Arn and Tully did that. A lot of guys did that. So Magnum could have just been one of them. I think some Magnum TA and Randy Savage matches would have been phenomenal. Ooh, the WWE steroid trial would be good too. Oh, I don't think I did mention that, Madeline, but I did hear about that. A report came out saying WWE won't return or doesn't plan to return to regular programming like live shows, Raw and SmackDown, in constant travel until 2022. That's smart. I mean, it's not, I don't think 2021 is really going to be enough to get back to full speed again, so it's probably going to be something like a 2022. That sounds about right. And they're probably doing the right thing there. I'm really hoping to get an announcement on WrestleMania sooner rather than later, just so I can put that out of my mind. But now that the state of Florida is going to let people do what they want, WWE is probably going to do something there. Yeah, and I remember Magnum, he did like the photo spread too, where he's like on the motorcycle and he's got his shirt off and shit. And oh my God. He was different. He was different than Hogan, but similar at the same time. Oh yeah, the Arn and Sid incident. I don't know if they can squeeze an hour out of that. That's just two guys having heat, getting drunk, and stabbing each other with scissors. But again, 14 episode season, got to fill it somehow. A hell of a story. That I remember hearing about it when it happened and reading about it in the wrestling magazines, which by then would have been months after the incident actually happened. I remember reading about that and I'm like, wait, what now? Like I was almost like, I remember like, I wish I could probably still have the magazine, but I remember reading it for the first time and thinking it was an angle. Like I was reading it in a wrestling magazine, and wrestling magazines are usually kayfabe, articles and stuff. So I'm thinking I'm reading and I'm like, wait a second. No, I think this really happened, the type of thing. I remember my thought process going through that, saying, oh, is there a video of the fight, the scissor fight? And then I realized that, oh shit, this really happened. And Arn got all stabbed up. Can't believe nobody died there. All those stabbed, like however many stabbings it was between the two of them. Sid got stabbed a couple dozen. Arn got stabbed a couple dozen. The fact that nobody punctured a vital organ or an artery or anything like that, nobody lost their life, is pretty amazing. And the fact that they sort of made up years later. Wasn't Arn the referee when Sid dropped the belt to Benoit? Chris wants to know who's ready for Hell in the Cell. Honestly, I am. I think even though we have 3 matches announced, I am excited for the 3 that we've got. I think they're all going to be good. Do we have any idea when we're going to get any of those? They're going to have to film those and do them and produce them and all of that. So I don't know when we're going to start getting these new episodes. But the first 2 seasons were pretty heavy, man. Hey, look at that. That's real smart. Madeline, save up a bunch of money as if you're going to Mania. And then if Mania doesn't happen, you got a whole bunch of money. That's not a bad idea. Did they do an episode on the death of WCW? I don't think so. My freaking memory is like bad already. Let me look. Dark Side of the Ring. Can I spell? Yeah, here's season 1. We did a Match Made in Heaven, Savage and Elizabeth, Montreal Screwjob after that, Bruiser Brody, the Von Erichs, Gino Hernandez, and Moolah. Oh yeah, Moolah. And that's season 2. Where the hell is wasn't Owen one in that one? Oh no, Owen and Benoit were both in season 2. Really? Huh? How about that? Yeah, in season 2, Benoit, New Jack. I forgot about New Jack. Brawl for All. There's Snuka, Dino Bravo. Oh, David Schultz. That's right. The Herb Abrams. David Schultz and Abrams were, I think, your slightly more lighthearted ones. Road Warriors and Owen Hart. Wow. Yeah, so that leaves a lot. Pillman, China, Bulldog, Plane Ride from Hell. Trying to think if, in terms of Brawl for All, if there's any other storylines in WWE. Katie Vick? Well, you'd have to get Kane and Triple H involved in that. So that probably won't happen. But anything else that was really like done in bad taste or something, a storyline or an angle that damaged wrestling. And Brawl for All definitely made a case for being damaging to wrestling for what it did to Doc. So something like that, if we can think of an example. I don't know. They could do something on. It's going to have to be a rights and licensing issue, but if they could do something on ECW, maybe with just ECW in general, or maybe like the crucifixion stuff with Sandman and Raven and all of that, could maybe make for an episode, or maybe just based on how the company started and how like underground it was, and them trying to fight and claw to get TV deals, get on pay-per-view, develop and build an audience, and then WWE gets their hands on it and ruins it. I mean, that's a dark story. That's a tragic tale. ECW, something that, used to signify really fun wrestling, WWE destroyed, when they owned it and rebranded it and repackaged it and re-debuted it, and it ruined everything that ECW used to be. That could be an episode, but I don't know if it's an episode that could be made. Because that all depends too. Because you would think anything done on the Ultimate Warrior would have to be done in some sort of cooperation with WWE, just for the use of footage and stuff. You'd think, but I don't know. You didn't know you live near New Jack? Go tell him what's up for us. Oh yeah, Gorilla Monsoon documentary would be awesome. That wouldn't be really a dark side, but just a documentary in general. I don't know if Undertaker's ever. I don't think Undertaker's ever going to do anything outside of WWE. I think when he was announced for that Starcast show, like he said in the documentary on the network, he's like, Vince called me up, and he's like, So I think they signed him and came to terms on a very big, lucrative type of Legends deal that's going to put him under WWE umbrella forever, and will probably limit what he can do outside of it. They're probably cool with him doing stuff. I just think that was so closely attached to AEW. It was a little too close to them for comfort for Vince, and that's why he said no. So I don't think we're going to see him there. Yeah, one on Jim Crockett Promotions could also be good. You could do one on WCW or Jim Crockett, because there's a sad story to be told there too, because of the numbers and the business that they were doing. It was pretty much internal management mistakes, financial ones, that caused them to have to sell, and WCW becoming what it was. And that gave them a good run. They had Ted Turner and money behind them, which got Hogan there and Savage there in the NWO, and got Nitro cooking, and the Monday Night Wars were born out of that. But there's an argument to be made that the sale to Ted never even need to happen, because they were bringing in enough money, to be a viable option and stuff. They just didn't have, they didn't have the internal vision that WWE did, and they didn't have the, management responsibility they needed to have, and mistakes were made. So, that could be a sad kind of ending, for a company that's doing relatively big, decent business and drawing big houses, and still riding off the tails of Flair and the Horsemen and stuff, to have to sell. And yeah, they screwed up. It's around 88. It felt like they were still hot. 88, even a little bit of 89, but then once 90 and everything rolled around, and they looked so rinky-dink. They looked so small time. They looked Bush League, after really not looking that way in the 80s. Oh yeah, you could do one on Ted DiBiase's dad passed away in the ring, Mike DiBiase. Again, don't know if you can squeeze a whole episode out of that or not, but there would be a lot of meat on the bone with the DiBiase family and stuff, and the generations of wrestlers and everything, and that's a pretty sad story as well. Oh yeah, and then Paraguayo Jr., right, who died in the ring in Mexico in 2017 with Rey Mysterio. That was super sad, but again, a whole episode. What is there more to that story there? Because that's just like a tragic freak occurrence that is awful, but not sure if they can fill an hour on that. Maybe. I like Ronnie Matthews' idea, one on Vader. I think Vader kind of had a sad end there, and he had some instances in his career that happened to him. In WCW and some of the problems he had there, and then in WWE, and everything that he was set to win the title and the whole ordeal with Shawn Michaels. Um, Legend has it back in WCW, he got his ass kicked by Paul Orndorff, which kind of diminished his badass persona a little bit, and especially what a big star he was. Being on top in WCW, being a huge name in Japan, and even coming into the WWE, a guy that should have been quite the big Hall of Fame wrestler, could have been one of the best big man ever. Kind of fizzled out at the end there and really had a terrible ending. And part of that's WWE's fault, and part of that's a little bit of his own fault too. So, and part of it's Shawn Michaels' fault. Yeah. Funny thing is, Real American, I actually thought WWE bought WCW for slightly less than that. But whatever it was a very small amount of money in the grand scheme of things. Um, how a company, it's just intellectual property in the tape library and stuff. It's still, to me, more valuable than what they paid for it. Probably one of the biggest steals in the history of wrestling, and all the money WWE's been able to. They've more than made their money back from that investment. Oh yeah, another sad death. You can, and Ronnie, you could name a whole bunch of ones like that that are similar to Test, because he died in that horrific way in another drug overdose. Lance Cade is another guy that you could think of. Umaga, so many other wrestlers that have died in that type of way and had that problem with addiction, and especially with the pain meds from that generation and stuff. And a lot of guys in the ECW locker room too. Um, it's amazing to me that everybody in the clique is still alive. I think if things would have ended badly for Scott, or maybe badly for Waltman, or maybe even badly for Sean, and the only two guys that really had a good head on their shoulders was Hunter and Nash. They would that would make for a really good episode to hear them talk about their friends that are no longer there, much like Brett has to talk about his crew that's no longer with him. If Scott Hall wasn't able to clean himself up, what if Jake wasn't able to clean himself up? Jake's going to have a lot to do with the Grizzly Smith story if they do one on him. But Jake's life alone, we saw that chronicled 22 years ago and Beyond the Mat, when he was having all sorts of problems. And if it would have ended badly for him, and he wouldn't be here today, he'd be one. Kurt Angle comes to mind. Kurt Angle was kind of on the brink there for a while. Both of the Hardy Boys had their problems. All of these could be episodes, and I'm thankful and I'm grateful that they're not, because all those, Angle and especially the Hardy Boys and stuff, there's so many that we could be doing, and luckily we haven't, because everybody's been able to turn themselves around. What a mess. Look at that, 1.7 for the tape library. I'd be willing to pay 1.7 million. I don't have 1.7 million, but let's say I had $15 million in the bank, and I could buy it for 1.7. I would totally do it, because I'd own it. And then the landmark and the logo, or trademark and logo, for 2.5. That is just insanity. That is insanity. A wrestler could have bought it. Hogan could have bought it. I think Jericho said in his DVD that he could have bought it. I don't know why he didn't. No, Madeline. Triple H is always his clique cohorts always stick up for Triple H and say he's always been a non-drinker, non-smoker. I don't really think they're blowing smoke, because we've heard that from every wrestler, not just the people that would have a reason to make up shit for him, but just random people. His parents seemed to be good people. They raised him right, and he had a good, good structure and good upbringing and all that stuff. He just stayed away from it. He was, he was more motivated in other ways, and that's good. He was a good guy to have around the clique. He probably saved some of their lives more than once. One on Yokozuna would be good because I find his death to be very sad because he just couldn't lose the weight. And again, it felt like if he really, really wanted to, he could have lived a little bit longer. You're not going to be that large and really live a long life anyway, but you don't need to be 700 pounds. You can be 400, which still isn't going to be a very long life for you. But Jesus, I mean, at one point do you, just become so morbidly obese that you can't move, can't walk, and you're confined to a bed. And Yoko, they tried to work with him. I think they sent him to the weight loss camps more than once, and just it never stuck. I don't know if that's on his part. I don't know if that's, something with his own health that he just, can't stop, growing or whatever. But sounds like it was mostly just, self-control and him not wanting to really commit, to getting the weight lost and keeping the weight off and trimming down. And it cost him his life. And you knew it would, a heart can't pump blood, to that much body, when you're like 700 pounds, 600 pounds, wherever he was. And that's sad. He died, I think it's 20 years now. I think he died in 2000. Wow, Jesus, man. Pretty sure it was 2000 that he passed away. So we're going on 20 years since Yoko kicked it. That's sad. Crush could have an episode. I'm still kind of surprised about his as well. Yeah, Triple H might have had some other type of drugs, but I'm talking about like rehab. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But recreational type of stuff, partying on the road, he wasn't that guy. Didn't even really drink from what we've all heard. So that would be kind of a fun thing for them to do, Maka, if they did like a bright side of the ring. Because if they do 14 episodes here, there are some good things in wrestling too. And it would be nice to see a series maybe focused on some of the happier stories and some of the happier endings. And maybe after 14 more episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, maybe we can do a Bright Side of the Ring. And then those would all work. The ones I mentioned earlier, Scott Hall, Jake Roberts, Kurt Angle, the Hardy Boys. They were headed in one direction, and they turned the corner and pivoted and heading the other way now. That's good. Scott Hall is still iffy. I met him on the cruise. I even told him I was proud of him, on the cruise. And he's like, why, man? I'm like, for you being here, breathing air. That's why I'm proud of you. I had to kind of basically put it that way. He's like, oh man, you don't have to say that way. He's like, he was almost like blowing it off. He's like, don't be proud of me, man. I'm nothing. I'm like, yes, you are, dude. Based on everything that you've had going on, the fact that you turned this corner, you should be proud to be here. But I think he has had some relapses here or there. But overall, it was a lot worse for him several years back, prior to him finding DDP. DDP deserves an episode, Bright Side of the Ring, all focused on DDP and his yoga and how he's taken wrestlers in and saved their lives. He deserves a medal of honor. Yeah, from an addiction standpoint, that was never going to be something that was going to ever plague Triple H. Plagued everybody else, literally everybody else. We're just constantly hooked on that stuff. And some kept it together. Guys like Austin, Nash, Undertaker, they partied, they drank their asses off, but they just knew, they knew there's a line you don't cross, and they partied and they had their fun, without doing it in a life-shortening way, where guys like Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall, Sean Waltman, Jake Roberts, they didn't really do that. And Kurt Angle might turn out to be one of those guys, that at age 60, based on what he's done prior. I was not remembering how Crush died. He choked on his food. For real? How did I forget that? I should forgot how Bryan Adams died. I didn't know it was like that. It was also Dana Brooke, right? Dana Brooke's boyfriend choked. Trying to look it up here. Yeah, I was seeing the Dana Brooks stuff here. God, apparently he was on the phone with her when he was choking. My God. Yeah, I've told the story before on the podcast more than once when we've talked about this. I almost died in 2012, very close. I was in my apartment by myself, eating a steak, and I took a very, very, very big bite, and I couldn't swallow it, and it was stuck. And I stood up, and I tried to take a sip of a drink, and I couldn't even get it in my mouth. It just all went down, and I knew I was fucked, and I just couldn't. You can't breathe, and you're kind of panicking. So the only thought in my head is I was in my head, I was actually saying, "This is it. I'm cashing out. I don't want to be here on the floor when my wife at the time comes home and finds me there." So I wanted to get out of the apartment. So I basically ran with the intention of beating on a neighbor's door, hoping that if I pass out, they'll find me and maybe get to me in time. I don't know. And as soon as I got out the door, I realized I wasn't going to make it to the neighbor's door. I was already like starting to turn purple, and I had the railing right there, and I basically Heimlicked myself, and it came flying out, flew about 5 feet out of my mouth and landed splatted on the ground. And I collapsed and I crawled back into my part. I can't, because when you choke, and like, you know how that thing where you try to take a breath and you can't. So even though I had it out, I still couldn't get a breath yet. And I was just like, oh my, I mean, drool, everything was coming out of my mouth. And I sat there on the floor for like 30 minutes, like thankful to be alive. And I went outside with my phone. I took a picture of the meat that was on the floor that I choked out. Scariest thing. So when I read that about Dana Brooks' boyfriend a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, that's just heartbreaking. You know, just chew your food, boys and girls. And I've had a couple of close calls since then where I haven't chewed enough. I took too big of a bite. So, yeah, be really careful with that. But that was so close. That was almost it for me, man. Back in 2012, we'd been like, where's good mic work? He hasn't done a video in a while. Yeah, Rick Martel, Bright Side of the Ring. That's a great one. Yeah, because it doesn't have to even be redemption stories. Like all the ones I mentioned earlier with Hall, Angle, Hardys, that's all people that had dark times and turned it around. Why not do one on someone who never had dark times? There was nothing but positivity, in their life. Do one on Martel. Do one on Tito Santana. Um, it's pretty sad that it's really hard to think of people that just really had it together. Paul Ellering would be another guy that I think just always had his shit together and was just respected and, never screwed around and was always, responsible basically with his life. And he didn't get caught up in the rock star type of lifestyle. Oh, apparently we got the ghost of AJ Daniels in here. He choked to death on a peppermint when he was a kid, but here he is chatting in the chat. The ghost of AJ. Hey Dan, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Yeah, everybody go tweet right now. Tweet and tag Vice and say, give us a bright side of the ring. There's definitely some ones we could do. Even there are some people that have passed away that could still have bright sides of the ring. I think an arguable one would be Bobby Heenan because his illness was so tragic, what happened to him. But, in terms of who he was and the career that he had and how much he was respected and how entertaining his wrestling career was, he could be an uplifting episode, doing something on Bobby and maybe just touch on his demise at the end. That might be too dark for Brightside. Taker, I think, could be a bright side for sure, Madeline, because of what he offers and how he's revered. And yeah, in terms of him with drugs and stuff, aside from some partying here and there, some partying like most people do, I don't think Taker was really that much of a heavy drug user, and he wasn't had no addiction problems at all. But in terms of the respect that he has, and and his value, like in the locker room, and his ability to talk to young people and how he's just looked at, I think that could definitely be a bright side of the ring episode for sure. Yeah, I know, AJ. I know what you mean. I was kidding. Poor New Day. Why? Because they're two turds? That was kind of funny. I'm okay with the New Day splitting up. It might mean big, big things for Big E. And the Brotherhood remains together. They're not broken up. Nobody turned on the other. Big E was topless in the Thunderdome tonight. So sexy. Oh, geez. Yeah, you had a similar situation? Yeah, and being separated, not being around people is one thing. Like, I had nobody around, it was just really scary. And just the idea of me just being found by anybody terrifies me. I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to walk in on somebody and just be the one to discover, you know? That's all I had in my head. I was just thinking, I'm like, somebody's going to have to find me and it's going to traumatize them forever. So I got to get the hell out of this house before I die here on this floor. Was basically my only thought. Ooh, yeah, Brian Christopher. Brian Christopher could do an episode because I think that seems like something, I don't know, that seems like something Lawler would participate in. Because I think it was kind of sad for Lawler because I think he was in a bit of denial there. I remember when Brian died, he was, Lawler was like on TV. He was like doing news interviews saying that he doesn't believe that Brian killed himself. He thinks there's foul play. And I'm like, there's probably not. I mean, I know it's got to be just gutting to not want to admit that to yourself. I understand that totally. I felt for him. I felt for him because it was clear denial. You know, it's like, I get it. I get that he does not want to believe that happened, but, you know, foul play and somebody covering it up. Why would somebody, number one, want to kill him or cover it up? It just doesn't make any sense. Seems like if he was killed in jail, they'd know who did it and how and that sort of thing. It just, I was very skeptical. And to me, that just reeked of denial. I felt bad. I felt bad for Lawler, you know? So it's a shame what happened to Christopher. Ooh, yeah, The Rock is the brightest side of the ring. Brock's had so many documentaries and done stuff on him and his life and stuff, but yeah, doing one there, that is about as bright as it gets. Yeah, Kane, Rock, so many careers that you could talk about. You know, there's another guy that's done a pretty good job of hiding some of his dark tales, and that's, I hate to say it because I'm such a fan, but it's Steve Austin. He was no saint. There's a couple of things there that I'm surprised get overlooked right now. I guess just he's that level of a star that there's some things that I guess can be overlooked, and there's a lot of glossing over there with some of the things that he's done, and you know, him being on TV and still being featured and having projects to work on and stuff, you know, because he's had some rough patches as well. So, but it doesn't get talked about much. But I love Austin. I still need to buy his beer too. I still need to buy the Broken Skull IPA. Yeah, Kane would be a great one. He's a success story too. He's another guy, always kept his nose clean, always had his shit together. Aside from having fun and being out with the boys and having a casual night of drinking or partying, aside from that, the guy was straight as a grizzly's dick, as they say. And Kane was awesome. Oh yeah, Stone Cold. Some of his skeletons aren't even in the closet. They just don't get really talked about. Sometimes they're just like in a hallway. They're not even totally in the closet. Just got to look down the hallway. You'll see them. Oh, we got Real American looking into some WCW stats for us. I appreciate that. 2 years before WCW was purchased by WWE for just a little over $4 million, it was valued at $400 million. That was probably also due to the TV deal, I would imagine. Their stock dramatically dropped when TNT wasn't going to pick them up. Dark side on Flair and how many women he slept with. I don't know. That could be a bright side too if you look at it a certain way. It's a bright side for Flair, I suppose. Trish Stratus bright side, I'd be all for that. Trying to think what else would be kind of on the darker side in terms of wrestling storylines and stuff in WWE and certain characters. I don't know. 14 episodes is going to be a lot. That's going to be a lot to fill. Even with the ones that we've suggested here, I don't think we passed really 8. You know, so we might only have 5 or half of the ideas for that many. You've met Kane, nicest guy ever. Yeah, I've met him too. I've at least seen him. Have I met him, or have I just seen him? I've seen him at least like 3 times in person, like randomly. Pro player, what are you mad about? You believe I believed that thumbnail. and come to hear, but this is a podcast. What the fuck did you think it was? The thumbnail says in big, gigantic letters, results and review. Review. Somebody reviews it. Get the hell out of here, pro player. Learn to read a thumbnail. And learn to read. Oh, and learn to write too while you're at it. That'd be big help. Thanks. Hey, look at there. We got Kick to the Gut wrestling podcast coming in. Our friends from Singapore. I did a guest spot on their podcast a couple of months back. It was a lot of fun. Great Raw review, Greg. Thanks for coming on our podcast a few months back. We're hitting our 100th episode this week. Holy crap. Would love a shout out. Absolutely. Go over there to Kick to the Gut right now. They got a great podcast. I know you can listen to it on all the podcast sites, and they've recently started doing streaming on YouTube. They are great guys. They are positive guys. They are not filled with so much of the negativity and nonsense that you see all over wrestling YouTube and just wrestling IWC in general. So check those guys out. They're great, and they got a great podcast. I'm glad you guys stopped by to say hello, and hope all is well, man. Has it been a few months now since I did that? I thought it was a couple months, but I guess it was a few. That was a fun one to do, and you can probably catch that on their channel. So go over there and subscribe to those guys right now. I'd consider it a personal favor if you went and subscribe to Kick to the Gut. Good people. Oh, sorry, you can't go to sleep. I'm about to get out of here. We've already been going for over 2 hours, so I'm about to sign off here now. But I kind of like some of these ideas for the dark side of the ring. The custody battle for Dominic. I don't think that would be a good for an episode. I don't think it was that dark. I think it was silly. We look back on it now, we mostly just laugh at it, especially when you see Dominic on television now and you see who he was as a little kid and everything. I remember thinking the storyline at the time in 2005 was stupid. I was just like, what are they doing? But in terms of it being something on the level of a Brawl for All, on the level of a Katie Vick, no, not at all. I think it gets looked back on relatively lightheartedly. You know, like even though I thought it was stupid at the time, I don't have any like anger in my heart over it. I just kind of snicker at it a little bit. Oh, that's a good one too. JJ. You know what? And you say, could there be an episode on Reed Flair? I say yes, and here's why. And it's for a really, really dark reason. Is that Flair's going to get paid. And he's probably willing to tell the story. And it would be an emotional as hell story. And it would be hard. And Charlotte would probably be a part of it. Yeah, God, I don't know, man. It's one that I wouldn't want to see, but would make a good one. I'm surprised nobody suggested that one before. Maybe they have. I just haven't seen it around. But Reed Flair is up there if you want to talk about heartbreaking type of situations. Not as big as Owen and Benoit, but close. And it's definitely dark. Doesn't get much darker, than heroin overdoses. That's a good one. Mania rumor on Lynch versus Rousey. This Mania? When is Becky due? I don't know. That's going to make it this Mania. Might have to be next year. And plus, we have no idea what Becky's intentions are. When it comes to having the baby, and being at home with the kid, how long she wants to do that. If it's just going to be a couple of months and she wants to get back in the ring and wrestle while she has the years to wrestle, or if she's going to take 2 years off, and be a mom. In terms of Seth Rollins, I think he'll be off TV for a short time when the baby's born, but not long. A lot of people are like, oh, you got to remember Seth is going to take paternity leave. I'm like, it ain't going to be like 3 months. I think he'll be gone 3 weeks max. He'll be back on TV. So I don't even think Seth is going to be gone that long. And with Becky, it just depends on what her personal preference is. If she wants to get back in the ring and wrestle, or if she wants to stay home, it's completely up to her. I want her to come back, but I support a mom in anything she wants. Whatever she thinks is best is fine with me. Yeah, there's another good one. Not only with Flair's son Reed, but you could do one on the Hogan family tragedy, because I swear it was weird. Once they got that deal on VH1, they had the Hogan Knows Best show. The family like instantly imploded. They seemed like they were still together. Hogan and Linda seemed happy, and Brooke and little fucker was just growing up, and they were young. They seemed to be good kids. And then the show starts. They all start, becoming obsessed with their own fame. Brooke kind of starts becoming a bubbling star and like a Britney Spears, type of sex symbol who's like underage and everything. And that was all weird. And all the guys, that she was dating, and they started getting wrapped up in that. And then Nick going off and buying his cars and being into all this dumb shit. And then he gets in the accident and he injures his friend. Hogan and Linda, their marriage ends and they go off and do crazy things. The sex tape was spawned from that. What a mess. I mean, the entire family just completely exploded. And I swear, without knowing the internal workings of the Balea family very well, I don't know how the dynamic is, but it seemed like everybody was relatively happy and Hogan had a stable family life. I think the show ruined it. Had they not done the Hogan Knows Best, they could all still be a happy family to this day. And maybe even that poor kid that's been in a vegetative state ever since the car accident would still be here and living a normal life. So that's another really good suggestion. One of the better ones is Hogan and his family. But I think Tim and Linda still don't get along at all. I think they're still pretty much at odds. And I know there's been lawsuits and stuff. So they would both have to be a part of the project. And that might be hard to pull off. But it would definitely make an episode. There's definitely enough there to talk about. All that shit's sad too. The beefcake. Beefcake could be another one. With the parasailing accident. Because that was messed up. I got a cat going crazy out there. And in a lot of ways, how I think Maka is talking about the Hogan Knows Best show and how that really led to the downfall of the Hogan family. In kind of a way, the Osbournes kind of had the same problem, right? They were brought on TV and they were just like, oh my God, they're all so weird. And I think, the kids wound up getting caught up in the fame as well and, making some mistakes and kind of being crazy. And then I think Ozzy and Sharon divorced or something. It ruins and wrecks families. Fame does that. And even though the show on MTV 20 years ago was insanely entertaining, it ruined them in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, I have been going now for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and shut the stream off. I'm trying to work on a Halloween Havoc review. I'm going to try to get that up here in a few days if I can. Otherwise, the next time you are going to see me is Saturday for the Winged Eagle, and we're also going to knock out Hell in the Cell predictions as well. And then on Sunday, this coming Sunday, I'll be up here after Hell in the Cell for a full show review. So we should have a fun week, and I think Hell in the Cell weekend is shaping up to be pretty damn fun. So I'm going to get out of here. Before I do, I want to answer that super chat from Hector. Thanks, dude, for the $2. Have you seen the It's Still Real to Me video? Oh, of course. Who hasn't seen the It's Still Real to Me video? That's hysterical. There's even, I saw recently too, not recently, in the last few years, that guy did like an interview or something. He's kind of grown up now, and he's a good sport about it. He kind of pokes fun at himself. And I think he's even slightly involved with some independent wrestling. I think he does something somewhere. I don't know. You can look him up. But yeah, I've seen that video many times. It's hilarious. And it was all caught on video. How embarrassing. All right, Maka. Good to see you guys. Zane, thanks, Madeline. Thanks for the well wishes. You guys be good. Have a great rest of your night. And I'll catch you this Saturday for what will be a really loaded podcast. Y'all be good.